Okay, hi ladies, 4.8, the quadratic formula. This is for quadratic equations that are written in standard form, which is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. I'm going to encourage you to also look up YouTube songs that have this in there. There's one by Adele, there's a Soldier Boy one. Go crazy, YouTube it, and just check it out. You might be slightly amused. Okay, so let's solve this using that now. It's already written in standard form for us, which is great, which means one side is equal to 0. So I need you to label A, B, and C. So we know that it goes ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So my A would be 1, my B would be 9, and my C would be 14. Plugging directly into this formula, x is equal to negative 9 plus or minus the square root of 9 squared minus 4 times 1 times c, which is 14. All divided by 2a, which is 1. All right, so some of you that are calculator pros, you might use it to simplify what's inside the square root. 9 squared is 81. I don't have one readily available. Minus 4 times 14, which is 56, all over 2. This gives me negative 9 plus or minus the square root of 81 minus 56 is 25. I know, and you should be impressed that I'm not using a calculator. I'm doing it all in my head. Could also be that I worked out these problems earlier, so I know the answers. So negative 9 plus or minus the square root of 25 is 5, all over 2. So I should have two answers, beautiful people. One for when I add 5 and one for when I subtract 5. So negative 9 plus 5 over 2 and negative 9 minus 5 over 2. Negative 9 plus 5 is negative 4 over 2. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. Negative 9 minus 5 is negative 14 over 2, gives me negative 7. Those are my two answers for what x is equal to. There you go. You could have gotten this by factoring this also, but some equations are just not factor friendly, so quadratic formula really steps in. The only thing people hate about it is that it can be a little bit tedious just crunching all these numbers, but once you have the formula memorized, it's a pretty go-to type of situation that you can always lean on. Okay, the next one. Solve 2x minus 2 is equal to negative x squared plus 3. This one looks a little bit different. You may notice that everything is not on one side like it was for the previous example. So I'm going to have to change that. I'm going to move these two terms over to the right side. To do that, I'm going to add x squared and add x squared. I'm also going to subtract the 3 and subtract the 3. So I get x squared minus, just kidding, plus 2x minus 5 is equal to 0. This, for example, is not factorable. So I know that my a is equal to 1, my b is equal to 2, and that my c is equal to negative 5. From here, you're going to plug directly into the quadratic formula. X equals. Now, here's a good exercise for you so that you're not completely dependent on me in these notes. Go ahead, press pause, do the work yourselves, and then see if your work matches mine. If you're still feeling a little bit shaky, go ahead and follow me here. Negative b, so that's minus 2, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so that's 2 squared, minus 4a, which is 1, c, negative 5. All divided by 2a, so 2 times 1. Negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 2 squared, which is 4. Negative 4 times 1 times negative 5, I'm doing it in my head, don't even worry about it, is positive 20, all over 2. So this is negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 24, all over 2. Looks good so far. So I'm looking at negative 2 plus or minus, and this is where I put my brakes on. I do not want a decimal answer for this. Instead, since we know our perfect squares, we're looking at 24 and we're thinking, okay, what's the perfect square? What's the perfect square? What's the perfect square? 4 is a perfect square, Miss Fitzgerald. So you're going to write 4 times 6 and put it all over 2. From here, you'll simplify. Negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 is 2. Radical 6 over 2. Are we done yet? No. We can simplify, and here's how you'll know. You're going to look at everything outside of the radical. So this is 2, 2, and 2. Obviously, what goes into all three numbers is 2. So you'll simplify by dividing each term by 2. Divide by 2. I'm just showing my work just in case because I don't want to lose anyone. Negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1 plus or minus 1 square root 6 over 1. Would I like for you to leave your answer like that? No. Would you lose points if you left your answer like that on a test or a quiz? Yes. Why? Well, you never write a fraction over 1. You would just say it as a regular number. So it's going to be negative 1 plus or minus, you wouldn't say 1x, you would just say radical 6. And then you'd be all good with me. Looks good, ladies. Let's keep it moving. Solve x squared plus 6x minus 15. This one I would actually like for you to pause it, work out the problem, and then unpause when you're done or if you get stuck. I'm going to stop right when I get to where it gets complicated or complex. That's a hint that you will have a negative square root. So work it out, do what you can, and then unpause when you're done, and then join me towards the end there. Okay, so the real question is, did you pause it or not? For those of you that did, thanks. Good looking out. For those of you that didn't, cheaters, go ahead and copy my work really, really quickly. And then pause while you do that if you need to, but I'm going to continue on. I'm looking at x is equal to negative 6 plus or minus the square root of negative, and what's your perfect square? Well, it's the same one that we saw before. So this would be 4 times 6 over 2. Now, negative 6 plus or minus, remember this, because this has a negative sign, you're going to pull out an I, and because the square root of 4 is 2, you can pull out the 2. I'm going to put it as 2i right now, times the square root of 6. Now, this is not standard form of a complex number. Standard form of a complex number, remember, is a plus bi. A couple of things need to change here, kind of like what we did in our notes. So I'm going to look at this as negative 6 plus or minus 2 square root 6 I all over 2. I'm going to go ahead and separate these into two separate fractions now. So negative 6 over 2 plus or minus 2 square root 6 over 2i. Hopefully, you're looking at these two and you're thinking, I'm definitely not going to leave it like that. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3 plus or minus 2 divided by 2, radical 6i. If you pause it for the whole entire time and you got to this all by yourself, I think that is delightful. If not, and you needed a little backup, go ahead and use me now. And then when you work on your homework, you'll be on your own. And I think you should be okay by then. So before we end this, let's look at the discriminant. Now the discriminant is just the b squared minus 4ac part. You're not going to take the square root. You're not going to do anything. You're not going to add to it, subtract to it. It's just the b squared minus 4ac part of it. And what that does is it tells me how many solutions I have and what type they are. So if I get a positive number when I plug in b squared minus 4ac, then I know that I will have 2 real solutions. If I get 0 when I plug in b squared minus 4ac, then I will have 1 real solution. And then if I get a negative number here, negativo, then I should have 2 imaginary numbers for this. Why? Well, if I get a negative number in here, then I'm going to have an I. Automatically, I know I'm going to have 2 imaginary numbers. If I get 0, I'm not adding anything and I'm not subtracting anything. So I should just have 1 answer here. And then for 2 real solutions, working backwards, if this was a whole number, then when I took the square root of it, just like we did in the first example, I should have 2 solutions. So example for this one. Find the discriminant of the quadratic equation and give the number and type of solutions to the given equation. So for number 1, I have x squared plus 2x equals negative 5. Remember, the only thing I care about is b squared minus 4ac. So if you're thinking, oh man, we have to do all that work that we just did, we don't. If you do all the quadratic formula, you're doing too much. So I will, however, need to add 5 and add 5 so that this is in standard form. And I get x squared plus 2x plus 5 is equal to 0. From here, I know that a is 1, b is 2, and c is 5. b squared minus 4ac, that's all I need. So that's going to be 2 squared minus 4, a is 1, c is 5. 2 squared is 4, minus 4 times 1 times 5 is 20. So I get negative 16. No one cares that this is 16. All that we care about is that this is negative. So if it's negative, it's a negative number, I know that I have 2 imaginary solutions. That's all they want to know. How many solutions do you have? Well, we have 2 imaginary solutions for this one. For the next one, try it. You know that your a is equal to 4, your b is negative 4, and your c is 1. b squared minus 4ac. Remember that. So this is going to be negative 4 squared minus 4a, which is 4, c, which is 1. Negative 4 squared is 16, minus 4 times 4 times 1 is also 16. 16 minus 16 is 0. So how many solutions would that be? Well, look at the chart and it will tell you. One way to remember for 0 solutions, though, to remember that it's 1, well, look at this. It's a 0, so it would be 1 real solution. There you are. Well, thanks for joining me. I hope that you have a pleasant day or night or whatever time that you're watching this, and I hope to see you in class. Talk to you all later. Bye-bye.